You can find tonight's species inshore, nearshore, or offshore. It also made fried fish fingers famous. Tonight, we're talking about groupers.
Welcome to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Welcome back to another week of the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Rick's clapping. We are full swing into summer now, and although we've had quite the weather all over the state lately, the bite is still on and still hot, right, Rick?
You're absolutely right, Bree. Oh, it is really good.
But you know who else is hot? Wow, that was a Rick transition. Dave, who we missed dearly last week.
Yeah, that's funny.
Dave,
we did. With all the kids here,
you got
loved
lucky
it.
and missed out on the kid show.
You know, I'm feeling real bad about it.
I'm
feeling
sure
really bad.
You are.
But I love fried chicken.
Well, we love having you back.
And I love fried grouper.
I know you love fried grouper. Okay, Rick, I think before we jump into the reports tonight and see what grouper season has blessed us with thus far, you have a special someone you need to...
We have a shout out for my niece, Erin Taylor. Erin. Look at Erin with her grouper that she caught off of Sarasota. But more importantly, we want to wish her a special happy birthday.
Happy birthday, girl. That's a nice catch. All right, guys, starting us off in the YETI Northwest region is Captain Jeff Hageman. Make us proud, Hag.
Grouper can be found throughout my region. Our coast is made for grouper fishing. We've got shallow coast, relatively. We got rock, limestone bottom, which is great for groupers. The fishery is probably one of the best in the state. Inshore, nearshore, you were just talking about, and offshore, we've got them in all the above. They're found around rock piles, ledges, high relief structure. Favorite baits are pinfish, pigfish. As far as live baits go, dead baits, cut sardines, cut squid is another one. Gags, blacks, reds, scamps, yellow edge, snowies, and the big boys, the Goliaths. We've got them all on our coast, and you can find them in anywhere from 4 to 100 feet of water. Heavy tackle is a must. You want to use a 4-aught, high-speed reel, heavy action rod, 50 to 80-pound mainline, 100-pound plus leaders. A lot of the smaller butterfly rods with the smaller reels and the heavy braid, 80-pound braid, are becoming more and more popular. And another unique thing we've got in our region is our wintertime grouper fishery. They get up in these real shallow waters, and we throw spinning rods with heavy-lipped Magnum Rapalas or heavy-lipped plugs in 6 to 10, 15 feet of water at the most, and rip these plugs across these rock piles, and big rock piles that we have up in the Bayport, Galacasas areas, and try to get them back to the boat. And a grouper in shallow water is nothing like you've ever fought before. I mean, he gives you everything he's got all the way as you're trying to get him away from your rock pile, and he more than likely wins even on tarpon rods. So that's a fun little fishery you've got up to the north. And I've got a photo of Al Roberts and myself with a Goliath we caught here recently.
Wow, that's a big one there, bub. All right, let's go ahead and continue offshore. What do you got?
Captain Jason Lineberger versus fishing charters out of St. Pete. He puts a good snapper bite right now on the artificial reefs and wrecks and in the shipping channel, or that hard bottom around the shipping channel. Shrimp and sardines have been working best, using a 15 to 20-pound fluorocarbon leader and a hookup jig head that's 16 ounce. The fish are averaging anywhere from 1 to 4 pounds. Now, in these moons right now, during the summer months, most of these fish are concentrating to spawn. So it's a good time to get out around the moons and get offshore. New moon, full moon, you can actually get out there offshore. We've still got some of our full moon left. You can get out at night. The night bite is pretty good right now, so that's a good little tip to do out there at night. You can chum them up right to the back of the boat. But staying with the report and moving inshore, Captain Mike Anderson of Real Animals Fishing Charters, with what's a good redfish bite right now throughout Tampa Bay. Fish are schooling on the top of the tide. Cut and live bait are both working well, and most of the fish are over slot right now. He's using a Strike King swimming caffeine shad as his bait, and that's been working real well as that live and cut bait. Also in my region, the trout bite from Crystal River to Keaton Beach has been really good. Limits of fish are pretty easy to obtain. Right now they're going to be a little deeper because the water temperature is a little bit warmer, so you want to get out to that 4 to 8 foot over that 4 to 8 foot grass fast from both and bottom. Pinfish under a Cajun Thunder is the one to use, or you can use a jerk bait in new penny or white on a 1/4 ounce jig head. You can also put that underneath that Cajun Thunder. That works well too, especially in that deep water. You can bring those trout right up. And the tarpon bite throughout most of my region right now, all the way up to the Panhandle, has been doing really good on spinning and on fly.
All right, thanks, Hag. We appreciate it. Good report from the Northwest YETI region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Florida Outdoor Experience hotspots inshore. Snook on the outgoing and incoming tides, fish creeks, potholes, and cuts, and then offshore snapper in 20 to 120 feet of water over the high relief structure. Use shrimp and small sardines for bait, and make sure you free line them.
Nice. All right, next up to get us on the grouper bite is Captain Randy Tow in the beautiful Florida Keys. Tell us what we have to look forward to for our trip to the Keys this weekend, Randy.
Hey, fish fans, good evening. You know, when we talk about grouper, we're talking about a species that lives from Key Largo to the Dry Tortugas out in the Gulf and all the channels. I mean, there is no shortage of groupers in the Keys regions. They really are in a lot of places. Our normal kind of the average fish are reds, gags, and black groupers. That's mostly what we're targeting, and you can target them several different ways. You know, some guys like to fish live bait. Some guys like to troll for them, actually, in the wintertime over the patch reefs with deep diving plugs. But I like more on the ocean side on some of the structure on the reef or some of the wrecks, and they'll range from 120 feet out to 200 feet. I love structure for groupers. It's always a place, kind of a go-to, that I can find one. And you're going to want a heavy rod to do that with, something with 65 to 80-pound braided line. And I like to use live grunts, small blue runners, or speedos, and ballyhoo. They all work really good. And you want to get it to the bottom. I like drifting. I like to cover ground and find them. So you really want to be ready when you get that bite from a grouper. He's got one thing in mind, and that's to take you downtown back to his house, and he's going to do it at a rapid rate. So you better have some pressure on that drag and be ready when you get a bite, because it's really short-lived. When you, if you can't pull him toward you, it's going to get right back in that structure. A buddy of mine, Captain George Campbell, on the Snapshot, he fishes out of Hawks Cay, one of the top guys down there for bottom fishing. He does a lot of grouper fishing in his area. He was telling me he's catching some real nice black groupers right now, up to 30 pounds, and I've got a picture with one of them with Joe from Connecticut with one of his black groupers.
That's a nice fish, Randy. All right, what else you got for me offshore, bub?
You know, the dolphin fishing has been good. It's one of those love-hate relationships. It's good, it's bad for some, and it really depends if you're the guy in the right place at the right time. And I mean they're not everywhere. You know, you really got to work at it. You got to find the birds. You got to find something floating, find the weeds. And the guys that are really doing their homework are coming up pretty successful. And some guys just go out and they blind troll. They'll get out in that 600 feet. They'll put a couple of ballyhoos out, and they'll just start covering ground. They'll get their binoculars, and they'll try to find the birds and get lined up with them. Captain Kenny Spaulding on the charter boat Carib Sea out of Lower Matacumbe, he's no stranger to catching big dolphin. He's very good at it. You know, I talk a lot about Brian Cohn, who's also very good. But Kenny really puts his time in, and he's constantly up in that tower looking for something to troll by or to cast to. And over the weekend, he was fishing with Betty Ballman, and she's the one that runs the Ladies Let's Go Fishing. And I've got a picture of her with a 58-pound dolphin that they caught over the weekend, and she was not in the dolphin tournament over the weekend.
Wow, what a great fish. Congratulations, Betty.
Awesome.
Now, before we go inshore, Randy, I want to take a look at the Navionics, and you're talking about dolphin fishing, obviously. Now, last year, you and I and Ridge filmed a show out off of the 409 hump, and if you take a look at this Navionics, looking at the sonar charts, look down here in the bottom of the corner. When we zoom in, now we're talking about that actual hump. The thing that is really great about the hump is as you see these lines, it comes up to 400 and some odd feet, but then drops off to 600. That's where the water wells up. And where it wells up, you're gonna find the tunas on top, and then in and around that is where we caught all those dolphins. So if you're headed down to the Keys, make sure you run out to the hump and check it out. What else you got for me inshore, Randy?
You know, Rick, real quick, that's the 409 hump off of Duck Key, and it is a place where most people go to for their tunas and dolphin kind of on a daily basis. The tarpon fishing right now, you know, we're kind of in a transition, if you will. We've had the spring run of local fish on the ocean side and the bridges, and we're starting to switch over. Usually about 4th of July weekend, we start to see less fish on the ocean and the bridges and more fish in the backcountry. And that's kind of what's going on. It's been a tough week with the weather. You know, we've had some storms, we've had some wind, heavy overcast. So the fly fishing guys are pretty grumpy right now because they're struggling in the Gold Cup tarpon tournament that's going on this week. But there are still fish around the bridges. If you want to drift with live crabs under a cork, and it doesn't matter if you're on an incoming or an outgoing tide, it seems like the bayside has been the best place to be to get a bite around the bridges right now. The snook fishing, we've been talking about the snook now for a few weeks, only because it's been steady, it's been good, and almost every guy that I run into in the mornings when I'm putting my boat in at the Lorelei, they're telling me a snook story. They're tired of tarpon, they can't get a tarpon, the conditions are tough, so they're going snook fishing, and it's remained good. Flamingo area, along the shorelines, along the beaches, guys are doing well. The incoming tide has been best, and guys, a lot of them are fishing with pinfish on a like a 1/4 to 3/8 ounce jig head or finger mullet if you can find them. It's been working really good. Captain Richard Black, one of the young guys out of the Lorelei, he loves poling around. I guess he likes the exercise, and he's very good at finding snook in shallow water. He was telling me around Flamingo he's been finding plenty of nice big snook, some of them over slot size that they're sight casting to. So a good snook bite up on the flats as well.
All right, thank you so much for your report this week, Randy. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the king sailfish hotspots from the Florida Keys. Offshore dolphins, start looking for the birds in 600 feet of water. Blind troll with ballyhoo or lures to cover the ground till you find them. And then inshore, tarpon, fish the bridges in the dark with live crabs under corks. Move with the current on the bay side of the bridge on either tide.
All right, well, let's check out some of the tournaments going on in the Florida Keys, shall we?
Yes.
This weekend's University of Miami Sports Hall of Fame fishing tournament in Isla Mirada offers both inshore and offshore divisions and an opportunity to fish with former Canes All-Stars. The Poor Boys Tarpon Fly Tournament, set for July 4th through the 6th in Isla Mirada, was started almost 30 years ago by Keys fishing guides who wanted a tournament with a modest entry fee to make the contest easily accessible to anglers of all skill levels. What a perfect name. The late Del Brown, who caught and released more than 500 permit on fly off the Keys during his lifetime, is honored with a namesake tournament July 11th through the 14th in Key West. The inaugural Key West Marlin Pre-Tournament is to be held at the Hyatt Place Faro Blanco Resort and Yacht Club July 15th through the 17th in Marathon in the Middle Keys. The top scoring team in the pre-tournament is to be entitled to free entry into the following week's Key West Marlin Tournament. And now, let's see what tournaments Andy Newman has to bless us with this week.
Well, hi guys. Anglers of all ages and experience levels can register for the multi-species Isla Mirada Summer Classic. It's set for Friday through Sunday, July 8th to the 10th. The tournament follows a weight and release format to promote responsible use of the Florida Keys' natural resources and maintain healthy fisheries. The Summer Classic allows up to 6 anglers per boat team in professionally guided or unguided divisions. Species include dolphin, grunts, jacks, sharks, snapper, snook, tarpon, tuna, and trout. More details at alamoradaclassic.com, and for more information on all tournaments in the Florida Keys, it's always flakeys.com.
Well, thank you very much, Andy. Coming up on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, we're headed up to the Panhandle region, and then we're checking in with Dave at the CCA workbench for Humminbirds Off the Deep End Report. Stay hooked up. We'll be right back. Dave, what are you hooking us up with?
There's a lot of ways to catch grouper. We're going to show you how to do a few of them.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevrolet, find new roads. Yamaha, reliability starts here. Contender Boats, performance through innovation. Humminbird, simply, clearly better. Decks and Docks Lumber Company, Florida's dock and seawall supplier. And King Sailfish Mounts, www.kingsailfish.com.
Thanks for coming today.
How you doing?
Well, today's going to be pretty easy.
I want each of you to grab a 2x8 and cut it. You'll have 2 saws to choose from, a power saw or a hand saw. So which saw did you use?
Power saw.
Power saw.
Power saw.
You all chose the most powerful tool. Wouldn't it make sense to make the same choice when it comes to your truck?
Absolutely.
This is the 2016 Chevy Silverado. It offers the most powerful engine in its class.
Awesome.
I'd say it's the best tool for the job.
Right on.
When you're moving a big offshore boat, it's all about thrust and trust. For thrust, nothing compares to the Yamaha purpose-built 5.3-liter V8 Power Pioneer. And for trust, Yamaha's new F350C model becomes the only outboard in its horsepower class to feature a 5-year limited warranty. Never settle for less than complete confidence and control in the open water. That's Yamaha V8 Power. Get the best and forget the rest.
It's one of the most ancient forms of hide and seek known to man. And nobody knows how to play the fishing game better than the backcountry guides and offshore captains of the Florida Keys and Key West. Ready or not, here we come.
Now it's time for the FWC News and Notes. June 25th, there's a kids fishing clinic in Cape Canaveral, and July 17th, there's another kids fishing clinic in Palm Coast. For more information, visit myfwc.com, but now it's time to go off the deep end.
Well, Hummingbird every week takes us off the deep end here at the CCA workbench, Dave, and we're talking groupers.
Yep, they're one of the most sought after food fish in Florida. You know, there's nothing much better than a fried grouper sandwich. It's one of my favorite foods, so we do a lot to chase them and eat them. One thing you're going to hear a lot about when somebody starts talking about grouper fishing is hard bottom, and what they mean by that is a stretch of bottom that is rocky. You know, that's hard. Most of Florida has sand bottom. You know, we have sand in every direction for a long way. Those little places where it gets hard, where the limestone comes up through the sand, that's where animal life and plant life can attach. It won't attach to just plain sand. It has to have something hard and porous that it can attach to. And when that happens, it draws life. And when you have life, you have little fish eating big fish and bigger fish, and then that's where your groupers will be, on that hard bottom, places where there's ledges or wrecks, anything that sticks up out of the sand and that can hold bait and other types of life. That's where you want to target grouper. And then in Florida, in the wintertime, is when most of our groupers spawn in the winter. And so they'll come in closer to shore, and that's when we can, you know, when they're in 35 to 40 feet of water, sometimes even less, we can troll for them. And you can troll big lipped plugs like some of the ones I have here, some halcoes, or even, you know, the big magnums. If you want to troll around Tampa Bay Bridge in the wintertime, in that deep water, that 60 feet of water there, you control one of these magnum stretches, and they'll get 30 feet down, and you can put a trolling weight in front of it and get even further down. And when you pull that thing by a big grouper down there in the bottom of the channel, you know, well, you better be ready to hold on. What we do is we'll use some 80-pound braid, and I called my buddy Tony Huerta on the way down here to talk to him a little about grouper fishing, because he used to fish with Glenn Cameron on the Floridian. He's probably one of the best grouper fishermen in the state. And he actually bought the Floridian, and now he owns another boat called the Loque Say, and they were on their way out to do some grouper fishing. And their primary bait is live grunts. When they want to catch grouper, they'll use a live grunt on a 7/0 to a 9/0 or even a 10/0 circle hook, depending on the size of the bait. You want to try to match your circle hook to the size of your bait. If you got a great big bait, you need a bigger hook, you know, because you want that whole thing to get swallowed and then that hook to come to the corner of the mouth. Now, if you don't want to take care of bait, or you can use dead bait. Big grouper will eat squid. All you need to do is put on enough weight to hold the bottom and put a big chunk of squid on your circle hook. And,
Right.
make sure you have 5 to 7 feet of fluorocarbon. And what they'll do is they'll sometimes put 10 or 30 feet of 100-pound test mono in front of their braid to give them a little extra stretch, because braid is unforgiving. It doesn't stretch much. And when you hook a big grouper, you're going to be wanting to crank.
Right.
You want to crank. Don't worry about lifting. Just wind. And I heard Hagman say use a high-speed reel. Use a low-speed reel. Use a reel that's not as high speed, because they have more power on the low end, on the crank end. If you get a 4/0 Penn Senator with a star drag, that's kind of like what you want. You want something you can lock the drag up, and every crank is, it's almost 1-to-1.
Right.
Because that way, once you get his head coming, he can't turn it. And
Right.
you can just keep cranking him, and you get him up enough, he's going to blow up, and now you've whooped him then.
Correct.
But if you go ahead and start to let one go, and if you're trying to use a high-speed reel and you're cranking and you can't pull against the drag,
Right.
you're going to be losing, because he's going to get you in the house.
Now, I noticed that you had pulled out this
Right.
Akuma.
Yeah, I really love to
With
do.
a jigging rod.
I love to jig for him.
Uh-huh.
That's Tony's out there doing live bait, but when we first started, we dropped these giant jigs down in 250 feet of water, and now they got these really cool butterfly jigs, and they're deadly effective on groupers and big snappers. And you fish them in the same spots you're fishing with your dead baits and your live baits, but you drop that thing all the way to the bottom and hump it up about halfway up the water column and drop it down again and do it again and again, and they'll pile on that thing and they will bend you up.
That's great advice, because I can tell you we were over filming with Mike Avanon for Sportsman's Adventures, and we took one of the Makaira 2-speed reels.
Mm-hmm.
We were catching big groupers, and we would put it down into that low gear.
Yep.
What a huge difference. We caught them when we went to the low gear.
Exactly, because you can crank.
Yes.
And you have to be able to get line back. There's a couple other rules. Those dual reels, you hear about too, a big dual reel. They crank forward like this, and when you want to go into low, you just go backwards. And they're awesome for bottom fishing. I learned that from Ron Chapman, who's a big
Wahoo guy.
A Wahoo and bottom fishing guy and marlin guy. He was a big Bahamas guy. He's a super dude. But anyway.
Well, you're a big offshore guy over here. I want you to know that.
Ronnie Chapman's seen a lot of stuff.
Oh, he has. And you know who else has seen a lot of stuff?
Oh, whoa.
Bree.
Probably me. I'm next, right? All right, let's head up to the Panhandle region for some more fun in the sun with Captain Pat Deneen. What's going on up there, Pat?
I tell you what, that was all good advice. Up here in the Panhandle, gags, red groupers, and scamps are our primarily targeted groupers. And of the three, scamp are the most prized for their table fare, followed by the gags and then the reds. And like David just mentioned, all of them are structure-oriented. Red grouper are probably going to be on the natural bottom, while the gags and the scamps could be on either man-made structure or natural bottom. A live bait, a butterfly dead bait, or an octopus are all great baits for groupers. Fish them right on the bottom with a slip sinker rig and a circle hook. And as Dave was mentioning, it's important to get that fish away from the bottom as soon as possible, because as soon as you hook them up, they're going to want to go back into their home, and once they get home, you're not going to catch them. And then also a large silver crocodile spoon, drop to the bottom, wound up a few cranks, and just vertically jigged right off the bottom is deadly for the scamps. The gags can weigh up to 60-plus pounds, and those big ones are referred to as copper bellies up here. The red groups are usually smaller, up to about 20 pounds. The scamps go from anywhere from 5 to 20 pounds. But I tell you what, those scamps are really tasty critters. Offshore, the spur, the elbow, the squiggle, depth, they're all in blue water right now, and the weather is perfect for an offshore trip. The Emerald Coast Blue Marlin Classic out of Sandestin is going on this weekend, and I expect some really big fish coming to the docks. What you want to do is run till you find the blue water. Keep an eye out for color changes, current edges, weed lines, and floating debris. And pull a mixed spread of lures and natural baits at 6 to 8 knots on 30 to 80 pound or 80 class tackle. And have some spinning rods rigged and ready with jigs or live bait, because when you find an area that's got a concentration of dolphin and you got those spinning rods ready, you can load up on them pretty well. Or if you're catching a fish and all of a sudden a big dolphin shows up, you got something ready to throw at them. And it's really exciting because while you're fishing for those dolphins, there could very easily be a big blue marlin showing up to eat what you're trying to catch. And then moving inshore, the tarpon are here. They're swimming east to west along all of our beaches. The western parts are holding primarily big schools of fish, slowly swimming in 15 to 30 feet of water. The eastern part of the region, the fish are starting to break up into smaller groups, but they're also swimming down the bar east to west. And it's important to find an area with a little bit of boat, or the least amount of boat traffic. And that's where those fish are going to be happy and swimming up on top and just cruising along. Anchor up and wait for the fish to come to you, or set up a drift where you intercept the fish as they swim to the west. We're using 50 to 60 pound fluorocarbon leaders, 6/0 to 7/0 VMC circle hook, and we're nose hooking our baits, the cigar minnows, herrings, and thread fins. And the most fish are running 60 plus pounds, but we're finding some fish, well over that as well. And there's a really, really cool photo. Last Saturday, we caught this beautiful piebald tarpon just off of Sandestin. 16-year-old Will Chapman from Mobile. He was the angler. It was his first tarpon, and chances are he'll never see another tarpon like that one in his life. I mean, it's nice, beautiful fish.
So, Pat, let's straighten out something for me. What did you call it, a piebald?
That's a piebald, kind of like a piebald deer, where you get a deer that's kind of modeled, not an albino, but not a normally colored. That's the best I can tell, Rick. I looked at the FWC website, and they found some fish, or they got an article about some fish that looked like a koi or looked like a carp.
Right.
I mean, this fish, anywhere there was color on it, that should have been normal color, it was golden or bronze.
That is so cool, man. What a great picture. Thank you for sharing that with us. Tell us what else you got for us inshore.
Inshore, Rick, the trout bite's been good in the bays and the Santa Rosa Sound. I spoke with Captain Chuck Timber, and he's still targeting that spotty grass sand bottom in 3 to 5 feet of water, and he's casting mostly bass, assassin, shads. He's catching lots of trout. Getting his limit. Most of the fish are short, but he's generally getting his limit of keepers. Early morning or late day is the best bite. And then again, another option is the nighttime bite under the dock lights. Live bait's the way to go, but you can also do flies or soft plastics. You can usually catch several fish from each light before the bite. You'll still see the fish, but the bite's going to shut down. Then it's just time to hop to a different dock.
All right, thank you so much, Pat, for keeping us straight on the tarpon. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region. Captain Pat says inshore big jack crevalles and bull redfish are busting up the bait schools in central Chakawaki Bay, cast swim baits and poppers on spinning tackle, and then offshore, spend the night at the spur, troll baits in the daytime for dolphin, wahoo, and billfish, and then soak squid and Boston mackerel at night for the swordfish, Bree.
All right, guys, you know what time it is. Rick, do you know what time it is?
I know what time it is.
It's time to ask Captain Rick. And tonight we have a question from Mike Taylor from Stuart, Florida. Let's hear it.
Hey, Captain Rick Murphy, how you doing? My name is Mike Taylor. I'm out of Stuart, Florida, and I catch a lot of snook and everywhere around Stuart, but I struggle with the redfish, and I really don't know how to catch them. I'm not sure if it's topwater jig or topwater plugs, or if it's bottom jigs, or what it is. Just any information that you can give me to help me target these fish would really be greatly appreciated.
Well, Mike, that is a great question.
Do you know how to catch redfish?
A little bit.
Oh, okay.
Now, here's what the advice I'm going to give you. It's not necessarily what you're doing wrong or what you're doing right. Understand that the Stuart area is not well known for catching redfish. So my suggestion is run up the intercoastal, get up near Fort Pierce, up near Vero Beach, then you're going to start finding redfish. As you get further south, it's a lot tougher. For whatever reason, we just don't have a lot of redfish that inhabit that zip code where you're trying to catch them. So don't blame yourself. Just move a little further north and you'll find all the redfish you need.
Or just book a trip with this guy and you'll be on them in a hot second. All right, if you have a question for Captain Rick, send in a good quality horizontal video to our website, ChevyFloridaInsiderFishingReport.com. And remember, the question should be 30 seconds or less. But get ready, because when we come back, we're casting to the southwest and northeast regions, only on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. That was an easy question too, wasn't it?
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventures. The American Fishing Tackle Company, precision tackle and performance clothing since 1958. Costa Sunglasses, see what's out there. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
I think it's time to change my battery. Now you do it.
Get AC Delco batteries at Bennett Auto Supply. Plus, get $10 off your first online purchase when you register at BennettAuto.com.
Bennett Auto Supply. Do it yourself, but not alone.
How can you turn a redfish into a new truck or boat? Catch a CCA Florida Star Tagged redfish. Prizes from Conley Buick GMC, Contender, Pathfinder, Hells Bay Boatworks, and Sea Hunt boats. Complete with Yamaha motor and trailer. Win your share of $500,000 in prizes and college scholarships during the summer-long tournament. Other great prizes from Academy Sports and Outdoors, Bad Boy Buggies, Power Pole, Costa Sunglasses, and more. Register now at ccaflstar.com.
As close as you're gonna get to a sure thing for catching billfish is Casa Vieja Lodge.
They're here, man. This has been a 20-year run, buddy. These things haven't left, it's full cycle.
When it comes to sail fishing, this is the real deal. The amount of sailfish here is ridiculous.
All right, guys, we brought you to this construction trailer to talk about trucks today. Which truck brand offers engines with best-in-class V8 towing or fuel economy?
We moving? We're going.
It's the answer to the question, baby. Silverado.
Ooh, that's cool.
It's Truck Month. Qualified buyers get 0% financing for 60 months. Plus, find your tank and get $8,250 total value on this Silverado All-Star. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
Remember, for weekly reports from our 9 captains and our latest events, make sure to check out ChevyFloridaInsiderFishingReport.com. And you can also like us on Facebook and send us your fish-tastic photos. But don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Captain Rick Murphy and Official Insider. Rick, you know, we never really talk about it this much, but we sit on this little pretty baby every week.
I'm telling you, Dex and Docs really hooked us up with. Also with the Trex and all the new material and the new color. I love it.
I love it too. It's very modern and sleek.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's
great.
great.
It's beautiful.
All right, when it comes to the Bell's Reel Legend Southwest region, Captain Ronnie Houston always has the groupies on lockdown. Tell us about them, Ronnie.
Well, you know what? It's been a big change here on the southwest coast of Florida as grouper fishing over the last couple of years has become outstanding. You want to concentrate on the red groupers right now. They're more common and start by targeting hard bottom. They can be caught anywhere from a couple miles offshore up to 250 feet in depth. Dead baits include herring, squid, are very effective, but you can also catch grouper on white bucktails or vertical jigging. The thing to remember about this is slower the better when jigging for the groupers. The gags can be found on our wrecks and ledges. Live baits include blue runners, pinfish, and herring. Work best. They can be found anywhere from the passes out to about 250 feet of water. Black and scamp grouper are more difficult to find in our region due to they are mainly on ledges anywhere from 150 feet to 250 feet. And if you get in those areas, they both are primarily caught on live baits as a little tip. And I got another little tip for you. Fish right now are showing up in big numbers. Don't run past them. Best step is 50 to 65 feet right now. And if you still can't get it figured out, there's plenty of good captains all the way along the southwest coast that can get you started in it. They do group trips of 4 to 6 guys. You figure you're missing out on something? get with one of these guys. But I got some prime examples of some fish just caught in the last week. I've got a picture of Chris Turner with a scamp. I've got Terry Metzger with a red grouper. And I've got Chris Workman and Tim Dillingham with all three species I just talked about. Get out there, listen to the tip, and go out and get you some good groupers. Now, also on the offshore side, the mangrove snappers. Concentrate right now from Fort Myers Beach to Stump Pass. Concentrate right now in depths of 25 to 50 feet. Daytime and nighttime, especially right now with the passing of the full moon and these lighter tides we're having. Concentrate right now on wrecks and ledges. Just use enough chum to get the fish to the surface. Use light leaders and then drop back live shrimp. Like I say, don't over chum, guys, because it might be over and you'll be moving on. Now on the inshore side, here we go with the snook. And I'm going to tell you right now, all I can say about the snooks is also outstanding. Been a big comeback on the West Coast. Concentrate on Seminole Point to Round Key. Now what you want to do is specifically target the outer Gulf Islands on the last half of the outgoing to the first half of the incoming. You can be using live pilchards or live pinfish, but I personally think it's better with the top water walk the dog lures. Just about any brand will work, but upgrade your split rings, then make sure you have some 3X and 4X treble hooks. These fish are actually knocking the lures completely out of the water. Once you get in a zone, you start getting these fish doing this, just put the power poles down and fan cast. These fish right now are very aggressive. Now, if you're in the zone and they stop hitting the top waters, they're going to figure you out. Just fan cast half-ounce gold or silver spoons, or in the top water plugs. You want to use chartreuse, bone chartreuse, black and silver. Right now, the fish are averaging 20 to 40 inches, and I got a prime example of a fish that was just caught. This is Courtney Houston. She caught this fish on 10-pound mono. Like we talked about last week, kids, a John boat, and a Yamaha 50 is all you need to get it done over here. Now, also, we got the redfish. You want to concentrate your efforts on the northern end of the region. No hurry to get out in the morning. Late afternoon incoming along the west wall from Redfish Pass to Ding Darling on the west side to Tarpon Bay. Fish the outer trough on the incoming and tight to the mangroves on the higher stages using cut mullet due to the heat of the day. Ladyfish, pilchards, and live pinfish. Weather's looking good. Get out and catch you some fish.
All right, thank you so much, Ronnie. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the southwest region. Captain Ronnie says offshore, permit, Naples to Fort Myers Beach, 12 to 25 miles out, fishing wrecks using live crabs, and an inshore, juvenile tarpon. Estero Bay to Wiggins Pass, nighttime residential docks and seawalls, east towards US 41 due to the freshwater flow, Bree.
Okay, FaceTiming in the strike zone northeast region is Captain Tommy Derringer. Tommy, why aren't your little girls with you this time?
They're probably getting ready for bed right now, but I'm sure they're missing seeing you, Bree. They loved it last week.
They were adorable.
Sure, so. Hey, you know what, guys? We've got some super grouper here in the strike zone northeast region. You know, grouper is definitely a favorite offshore species here in the region, and we catch them year-round. Now, traditionally, late winter and into the spring are going to be the best times to catch them because they come in close to the shore, but we're catching them pretty good right now as well. We have some small inshore grouper, but the groupers that most anglers are going to be looking for are going to be on those offshore ledges, reefs, and wrecks. Now, I spoke with Captain Billy Hunsicker from EndlessSummerCharters.com, and he tells me he's been catching some really nice gag, scamp, and red grouper right now on the 140 on out to about 200 feet. Now, Billy says that the scamp grouper are the ones that he really likes to catch because they make some of the absolute best table fare, and I have to agree with him. And he also says here in the strike zone northeast region, we're known for those big scamps. Now, he tells me those groupers are going to hold on just about any kind of structure, but that a lot of times the smaller ledges are going to hold some of the biggest grouper. So you're probably not going to mark a lot of those fish on your bottom machine, but if you find a good ledge, it's definitely worth a drop down there. Now, Captain Billy says the best baits are going to be live pinfish, grunts, or sardines, and he also likes to use some big Boston mackerel as well. A 100-pound test main line and about 10 feet, 100 to 150-pound leader is going to be the typical setup. And Billy's using a 4X or even a 6X circle hook sized to the bait that he's using. And just basically you need to break out the heavy-duty stuff, lock down the drag so you can pull those groupers out from their hidey holes. Now, I got a picture of a big grouper here. This is Joe Price with one heck of a nice scamp grouper he caught with Captain Billy on the end of the summer out of the conch house.
Boy, that is a nice fish, Tommy. What else you got for me offshore?
Well, you know, we've got to talk about those mangoes again. You know, I spoke with Captain Luke Thatcher from FishStAugustine.com, and he tells me he's been getting out at night and he's cleaning up on those mangrove snappers. Now with the full moon we've just had, they're gonna be spawning, and Luke tells me the nighttime is definitely gonna be the right time, and he's fishing about 100 to 140 feet deep, and he likes to chum them to the top with cut pogies. Now he says he'll just net a bunch of those pogies right on the beach on the way out, and then he's gonna cut them into really small pieces. And then when he gets over his spot, he's gonna start a constant chum line. And once the fish are in that chum, he's gonna use some really light tackle, 20 to 30 pound fluorocarbon and a small 3 to 4 aught VMC circle hook, and he's just gonna use a piece of chum and drift it back there for bait. Now those fish are averaging 8 to 10 pounds, and they even catch them up to 15 pounds. So there's some really big ones going on out there right now. Now moving inshore, you know, the redfish bite has really turned on this week with the cooler air and the water temperatures we've been experiencing. And we have a negative low tide super early in the morning this weekend, and that's a really good thing this time of year because it's gonna be nice and cool. The reds have really been feeding during that first hour of daylight, right about 6 a.m. And I've been catching some really nice slot redfish around the Pine Island area on the edges of the flats, right along the intercoastal waterway on that early low tide. Now the fish have been chasing down some skitterwalk, topwater skitterwalk plugs, and we've also caught quite a few on some live finger mullet as well. Now, I spoke to Captain Buzz Brannon from NortheastFloridaAngling.com, and he tells me he's been doing really well. He's fishing a little deeper, targeting submerged rock piles in the St. Johns River near Mill Cove first thing in the morning. Now, most of his redfish have also come off live mullet, but he's also catching some good ones on some plastic paddle tails rigged on a 5/8 ounce jig head to help it get down to the bottom. Now, Captain Buzz has been catching a bunch of slot fish and some really big oversized fish in those areas as well. And speaking of oversized fish, I've got a photo here. This is Frank Richardson with a big bull red he caught with Captain Buzz right there in the St. Johns River.
Wow, that's an
also,
awesome fish. Awesome fish, Tommy.
You know, the flounder bite is still great right now, and with this cool front that we just passed through earlier in the week, if you want to call it a cool front, it is a little cooler, it really has those flounder fired up. Now, most of the bigger fish have been coming from structures near the inlets, like the docks, the jetties, the rocks, and any kind of riprap. And there also are some more flounder starting to show up in the backcountry creeks in the Sister Creek area and North River in St. Augustine. Now, mud minnows or finger mullet on a jig head or fish finder rig is always going to be the go-to for those flounder. And I've got one last picture. This is Riley Miller and Jordan Johnson with Riley's big flounder she caught from under a dock in St. Augustine using a finger mullet for bait.
So Tommy, I got a question for you. The question is, you know, you're coming down here to actually do a Sportsman's Adventure episode. So I want to know, what would you like to fish for when you come down? You're coming the third week of July. What do you got?
Man, you know what, Rick? Permit would be really high on my list. We don't get to catch many of those guys up here. It's pretty rare if we see one at all. Tarpon, bonefish, those three right there, that'd be pretty awesome.
All right, so that's what we'll try to do. I'm looking forward to having you here in the studio during those couple days, and he's coming in.
Yay!
How about that?
No more FaceTime.
Yeah, man, can't wait.
Well, FaceTime for real FaceTime.
Yeah, real time.
There you go.
All right, bud, thanks. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Northeast region. Captain Tommy says inshore. Fish the deeper rock piles in the St. Johns River for redfish with mullet or crabs. Put out with live mullet on a flat line, as well as a chance for a passing tarpon. And then offshore mangrove snapper in 100 to 140 feet of water throughout the entire region. Target the big structures and chum them to the top so that you can cut some pogies or using cut pogies and sardines to get them up to the top.
But of course.
But
hey
of course.
guys, save this date. On July 2nd, you can meet Captain Rick at the Coke 0400 in Daytona. So before you head over to the race, come by on the Chevy display and check out this face. This face right here. This one. There it is. All right.
And the other thing too, Bree, you guys can actually come and see the new Chevy Silverado Suburban along with the Pathfinder 2300 wrap boat. We'll have it actually in the display. I'd love to take a picture with you in front of that, so make sure you come and see me.
Go see him. All right, anglers, we're taking a look at the East region, and then we're seeing what goodies Dave has for us at the CCA workbench when we motor back. So stay alert. Yes, he got goodies.
He's goodies.
What kind of goodies he got?
USA.
Oh, USA.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by the Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. FWC, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Navionics, we start where the road ends. SoftScience, supreme comfort footwear. Center State Bank, we believe in community. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, and Pathfinder.
At Yamaha, reliability is a family tradition. Meet the next generation. 4 new advanced technology-inspired inline 4-cylinder performers. Bred from the reliability and boater satisfaction that is part of Yamaha's DNA. They prove that when power gets lighter, faster, stronger, and smarter, boating gets even better. And more satisfying for boaters like you.
You know there's more to it than luck. There's fishing the right bait, the water temperature, the wind, the season, and then there's the boat. We'll put it simply, the boat matters. To own a Contender is to own the best sport fishing boat on the market, period. Contender offers the most comprehensive model range with bigger, faster, and more fuel-efficient boats than the competition. There's only one choice for serious anglers. Contender boats. Performance through innovation.
Shallow Rap Shad's a jerkbait with a secret move. When you pause, the lure slowly rises. I tell you, man, it makes fish come unglued.
CCA workbench, new products, and
Yeah,
where we
man.
got them tonight.
Well, we're going to start off with these cool Costa Del Mar sunglasses that I was showing, chanting the USA. These are the new USA limited edition sunglasses, and those red ones you have right there are called the Cortez, and you can tell that they're red, white, and blue.
Yeah,
They got the little red, white, and
Look
blue
at the bad
motif. Yeah.
That's a bad booty case.
It
I almost
is.
said
Comes
it.
with a cool case.
Look, it's got red, white, and blue case.
They come with a red, white, and blue buff as well.
Nice.
That's
and even a red eyeglass cleaner.
Correct.
To go with that.
They're 500, the 580p lenses. They're 100% polarized, 100% UV, just like the regular Costa Del Mars. And, that's the Mag Bay frame right there.
I love this frame. Check this out, Dave. This is me.
Yeah, it is probably
Look
kind
at
of
me.
you.
Just look at me.
Yeah, I'd rather not. Go ahead and take them off before you ruin them. I might take those home and give them to somebody. I don't want you to put your oily skin on them. But those are very nice, Costa Del Mar. I can wear any sunglasses I want to. You always see me with my
This
Costa
is in
Del
celebration of the
4th of July, and that's why
Of
they're red,
course.
white, and blue.
Special
USA.
promotion, so you guys got to order them right away.
Right. All right. Now what we got here are some Columbia shoes. You can get these at Bell's department stores. They're one of our big sponsors, and I love Columbia stuff. Those are the Dry Maker 3s. Those are really quick drying. They all have a nice little removable sole in here, so you can pull it out and get them dry as well if they get wet. They also have a carbon fiber in there, so it evidently keeps them from stinking as bad.
Right.
I seem to be able to overpower them, but supposedly they don't stink. These also have a blood and guts coating on them too, so you can get stuff on them and it doesn't stick to them. And they have a really good non-marking, non-skid surface. I mean, once you put these things on, you're going to stay on the deck. These are the completely waterproof pair. Those are called the.
How can that be completely waterproof? Explain that one to me.
Well, they're made for fly fishing in streams and wading and stuff. They're completely waterproof. Water can't get inside there. It's completely sealed. They have the outer dry waterproof coating on the outside. It keeps water from going in there. They got the nice Teknite sole to keep you bouncy.
Right.
And you can see it. You can see how the front is. It doesn't have any open seams. Water's not going to get in there. Those are made to be waterproof, which you don't find very many shoes today that are made to be completely waterproof. And these are the Bahama Vent Marlins. And I took these down to the DR. You can tell they've been used a little bit, but I took them down to the DR to give them a test. They have a marlin on the bottom of the shoe.
Oh, they do.
Awesome. A cool little marlin.
That's kind of cool.
Nobody knows about it except for me, but I still feel good about having a marlin on my shoe. But I like them because they can slip off real easy. I'm having to go through customs. I mean, the TSA, all the time, the security thing, and I like to have a pair of shoes I can slip on and off. These things are awesome. The Bahama Vent marlins.
Again, all found at
Bells. Yep, Columbia and Bells. Now this is Fish Razor dredge. Fish Razor, they also make the mud flaps kind of teaser deals, and you can put those on here. What's cool about this dredge is it collapses. It's got a little nut in the top, and you can make this into a 2-arm dredge, a 4-arm, or a 6-arm like it's made right now. You can hang, two streamers on each one. Right. It gets 35-inch diameter. Whoa. Yeah, so it's a big teaser, and I like to use the strips mainly because they're really easy to pull through the water. They don't create a lot of drag as much as the other ones do, and I'll tell you, a lot of guys swear by having natural baits and stuff like that on here, but I guarantee you not one sailfish or marlin has ever, tasted something before he went up and ate it. So he comes up there because he sees that thing. It's not because he can taste it or whatever. It's flapping and moving, and he wants to check it out. Right. I don't want him to eat this thing anyway. So if I have baits on it, real live, or dead mullets, and he comes up and eats that, that's the last thing I want him to do, because he'll stay there on that dredge instead of coming and
tear it all up
and eating my other stuff, which is what I want.
I like that it has a nut on the top. That seems to go very well with you.
Right.
Have a nut on the top.
Yeah, well, not only that, it allows you to make 2 or 3 different variations of it. I mean, you can just make this just a spreader bar and actually have baits on the back of it too, and catch tunas and whatnot from it.
I like it.
So
you got some jigs?
Yeah. All right. These are T&A jigs. These are some nice snook hawk jigs. Yeah. Really nice jigs. He makes all these in Fort Pierce. His name's Tim Goodwin. Fort Pierce guys, they've been making jigs for 20 years. He's just started his own company about 3 years ago. They have 3D eyes on their flare jigs, which is, most flare jigs don't have a 3D eye. They just have a black spot. So that's one of their differences. They make all kinds.
Pretty cool.
30 different. Yeah, very nice. 80 different styles, 35 different colors. They also make cobia jigs, and they range from 6/0 to 10/0 hooks, 1/2 ounce up to 5 ounce. T&A jigs. It's always good to help a Florida boy out, and he's a Florida boy, so go get you some T&A jigs. They're really nicely made. Nice epoxy on the wraps to keep them still.
Good job, Dave.
Very good stuff.
So, Bree, I want to ask you, when I said something about the nut on the top, I looked over at you, and you were like shaking your head, and no.
As in, it went right over the nut. Didn't even catch it. All right, now we've got Mike Holliday on the line with all of the knowledge you'll need for on the water and being successful this weekend in the Decks and Docks East region. Hey, Mike, how's your nut doing? Speaking of nuts. Just never mind. Stop. That's not what I meant. You just do your report. Go ahead.
I'm not going near that. Are you serious?
Just go.
So the farther north you go in my region, the more natural reef you get into, which makes for better grouper fishing. Starting at the Loran Tower Ledge off Hope Sound, the fishing moves offshore to the 6-mile reef and the 8-mile reefs off Stewart, as well as Push Button Hill, which has some snowy grouper on it. The natural reef in 70 to 85 feet of water off Fort Pierce is really good, has some great fish on it, but the best action is going to come on the reef in about 170 feet of water, just inshore of that closed section of Oculina Bank off Fort Pierce. And then there's also some good rocks east of Bethel Shoals that don't get a lot of fishing pressure. Big grouper like big baits, so it's hard to beat a live pinfish or a grunt or any of the herring family, the threadfins, the Spanish sardines, cigar minnows. Live mullet or croakers will also work, as will a 7-ounce Williamson Bethos speed jig in chartreuse or green or even the mackerel colors. And grouper like to head for the rocks when hooked, so heavy tackle, 60 to 100-pound braided line, 80-pound fluorocarbon leader on an 8.0 to 12.0 VMC circle hook are the way to go. Average grouper in my region is going to be 10 to 25 pounds. I got a photo there. That's Captain Glenn Cameron on the Floridian. He led Kobe White of Fort Pierce to that nice gag grouper. That fish ate a live sardine in 75 feet of water. The other thing we got going, those northeast winds and big swells we had early in the week, they've helped push out that cold water and push some dolphin over to our side of the Gulf Stream. This is the time of year you want to run and gun, or at least look for something good like a current edge or a weed line or a color change before you ever put out your baits. As a rule, the deeper you go, the larger the fish. And you want to watch for birds right now because a lot of dolphin are traveling and the birds will be over them. You control, feather and bonita strips to cover water. or you can run from one object to another and pitch live baits. And don't overlook a rigged squid right now for trolling, particularly if you get into a lot of scattered weeds. With the southeast winds through the weekend, there'll be a lot of scattered weeds. They kind of tend to be more weedless and easier to troll. Average dolphin's going to be 6 to 15 pounds with fish to 30 pounds in the mix. And I got a photo there of a dolphin. That's Kurt Pelchin. He caught that nice dolphin in 160 feet of water off Jupiter. He was fishing with his father, Perry, and that fish ate a live sardine.
All right, let's go inshore, Bub.
Well, we're getting into the time of summer when mangrove snapper push into the inlets to feed on the pilchards and sardines that stack along the rocks. So pick an inlet in my region. Don't overlook the Juneau and Lake Worth piers. The best mangrove fishing will be at night or on the slack tides during the daytime. There'll be a few mutton snapper in the mix as well. Places like the south side of Jupiter Inlet, the detached jetty at St. Lucie Inlet, and North Jetty in Fort Pierce. Those areas will have schools of snapper on them right now. And as the tides ebb, the fish come out of the rocks to feed. So that's the time to toss a live shrimp or a pilchard or a sardine up against the rocks. Most of the snapper will be 1 to 3 pound range, so you can use 20-pound spinning tackle, 20 or 25-pound fluorocarbon leader, a 2.0 VMC circle hook, and really just enough weight to hold bottom. A lot of times you can get away with a split shot. Also, you want to toss a bait out in the sand, put it in the rod holder, and see if Rodney will scare you up a mutton snapper or two. The other thing, there's been a small window, but from first light to 8 a.m., the sea trout bite in the Indian River has just been fantastic right now for fish to 8 pounds. The spoil islands around the Jensen Beach Causeway and the double bars off Middle Cove, they have a lot of school fish on them, so if you're looking for numbers, that's a good place to go. The larger trout are coming from the west bank shoreline of the Indian River, from Walton Road all the way up to the Wilderness area, and also north of that, just south of the Old Fort and Fort Pierce, so Savannah Road to the Old Fort. Be on the water at dark, throw in a 5-inch shad or a Texas shad in a Houdini or Panhandle Moon or Mama's 14K or Texas Roach, basically the dark colors. Work the docks and the drop-offs from the bar, and as well as the mullet schools, you'll see them ringing on the surface. A big trout are dogging the mullet right now. You can also fish shrimp, pinfish, or pigfish under a cork. Average trout in my region is going to be 2 to 3 pounds, but there's a lot of good fish in that 6, 7, 8 pound class right now.
All right, I saw a Facebook post from Roland Martin talking about the Toho and Istapogo. What do you got for me this week about bass?
You know what? Toho's on fire, dude. I was talking to Captain Steve Nymiller of BassOnline.com. He was telling me that the best action on Toho right now is for schooling fish out in the middle of the lake. Same deal as normal summertime. Be on the water at dawn. Work the hydrilla lines to about 9 a.m. Position your boat on the outside edge of the hydrilla. Cast topwater plugs, prop baits, lipless crankbaits, and just run them down that edge of the vegetation. You'll do great. The water where the fish are schooling is only like 3 to 4 feet deep, so you can also go with like a Mojo Carolina rig with just 12 inches a leader and a 1/4 ounce weight, and just work it down that edge as well. When the schooling bass bite slows down, switch over to live shiners, head out to 7 to 8 feet of water, and look for hydrilla that has shell bottom around it. You can fish the shiners under a cork or weedless, but the key is you want to throw your baits on top of the weeds, pull them back to the edge, and the fish are going to eat those shiners as they come over the edge. The school fish are 1 to 3 pounds, but Nymiller had bass to 9.5 pounds this week, fishing shiners on the edge in the middle of the day. So, it's a good time to get your Toho Mojo on.
All right, thanks for the Decks and Docks East Region report, Mike. We're going to go ahead and take a look at those hot spots. Captain Mike says that inshore, catch and release snook at the South Jetty in Fort Pierce, copper juice colored saltwater assassins or live pilchards along the shoreline, and then offshore mutton snappers on the Loran Tower ledge, live or dead pilchards, sardines or cigar minnows. Use a long leader.
That is the last time I'll take something you say and run with it. All right, want to know what'll be on the end of your line in the southeast and central west regions? You'll have to stick around to find out. We'll be right back on the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Rapala. Catch the latest at Rapala.com. StarTron cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. YETI, built for the wild. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 30 years. Strike Zone Fishing, your fish hunt paddle store. And Guy Harvey, marine wildlife artist and conservationist.
No matter where you are in Florida, Decks and Docks Lumber Company has got you covered for decking, seawall, and dock piling. From the Keys to the Panhandle and the Nature Coast to the Space Coast, we deliver the strongest products by the hardest working folks in the business. Whether you're fixing a dock or building a marina, go with the leader. Go with Decks and Docks. Supplying Florida's boaters, homeowners, and dock builders for over 20 years.
Thanks for coming today.
How you doing?
Well, today's gonna be pretty easy. I want each of you to grab a 2x8 and cut it. You'll have 2 saws to choose from, a power saw or a hand saw. So which saw did you use?
Power saw. Power saw.
Power saw. You all chose the most powerful tool. Wouldn't it make sense to make the same choice when it comes to your truck?
Absolutely.
This is the 2016 Chevy Silverado. It offers the most powerful engine in its class.
Awesome. I'd say it's the best tool for the job.
Right on.
Today's Power Pole tip of the week is about the different ways that you can mount your hydraulic anchor. Now think about it this way, guys. Certainly, through bolting is the preferred way for all you technical poling skiffs. But you know, this is the typical bracket that comes with all of our poles. So you can simply through bolt it. You can decide whether you want it outward or inward. But in most cases, this is the preferred way for technical poling skiffs. Now with that being said, some of you guys want to move your pole closer in. You want to have it so that it's tighter to a poling platform or right next to your motor. If that's the case, then PowerPole has created this jack plate bracket. And simply this bolts to all jack plates on the side. Now the Atlas as well as the Bob's Machine Shop brackets have been pre-drilled. After you've bolted to the bracket itself, then you can simply mount your power pole to the backside of this. Now for those of you who don't have a jack plate, Power Pole's made it really simple. You can simply take off the engine and then put this against the transom, mounting your power pole here. This is the shim for the other side, and this allows you to be able to use your power poles and have them again mounted using the same holes that you've already drilled, mounting your motor. Now for those of you guys that have flat deck boats like pontoons, PowerPole created this bracket. You simply bolt this to the deck and then you can mount your PowerPole to this bracket as well. And also for those guys that have boats that are real high, this allows that PowerPole to extend down in the water so they can actually reach the bottom. Now we've also created a universal aluminum bracket for all aluminum boats. So if you have any questions about how this is mounted through the splash well of aluminum boat, you can go to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, click on Power Pole, and all your questions can be answered. And that's today's Power Pole tip of the week.
That was great, Rick.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, now moving on to the Casa Vieja Southeast region. Let's see what Captain Jimbo Thomas has to say about the grouper in his region.
That's right. Hey, Rick. Hey, Bree.
Hola.
Hey, buddy.
Well, you know, the 3 types of grouper that we most commonly see in the Southeast region are black, gag, and red grouper, and they can all be caught basically in the same areas most of the time. Any coral reef, ledge, and wreck structure from 15 feet on out to 300 feet of water, those are great places to start looking for any kind of grouper. This time of the year when the water's warm, most of the grouper are found in the deeper water, say from 90 feet on out, and they can be caught drifting or anchoring over structure and fishing with live pinfish, grunts, blue runners, or just about any live bait for that matter, or on cut baits like bonita, ballyhoo, mullet, and on deep jigs and butterfly jigs. I like to fish with 30 to 50 pound tackle, and you need something fairly stout, so when you do hook one of those groupers, you need to get them off the bottom and away from the structure. So I like to use 50 and 80 pound leaders. And then when we're using live and cut baits, we also use circle hooks. Now, in the winter months when the water's cooler, the groupers, they'll move into the shallower water. And one of the best ways to put some nice groupers in the box is to troll over those reefs in 15 to 40 feet of water with a wireline outfit and a 3 to 6 ounce feather in front of a double hook ballyhoo, or troll Rapala X-Wrap 20s or 30s over the reefs. And I like to use the X-Wraps with a red head and white body. The best trolling speed is around 4 to 6 knots. A lot of people think that groupers can't swim that fast, but they can. They can go a lot faster than that. Now, the grouper season is closed from January 1st, and it reopens on May 1st. And unfortunately, that's during the prime grouper season. But if it helps ensure that there's going to be more groupers around in the future, I am definitely all for it. Now, I got a photo here, and this is a nice-sized black grouper that we caught trolling the reef on a ballyhoo and a feather when the grouper season opened in May. Now, staying offshore, it's getting near the end of our blackfin tuna season, but we're still catching them in fairly good numbers. There's been lots of small fish, but there's still a chance of catching one of those big 30-pounders. Most of the blackfins have been in the 2 to 12-pound range, which we've caught at least in the last week, and we refer to those as footballs. We've been finding these football blackfin tunas along the edge of the Gulf Stream, anywhere from 150 to 400 feet of water. And there's been lots of birds working out there over the top of these tunas to point them out for us, and they've been mainly frigate birds. And these tunas, they've been feeding on very small minnows in the scattered sargassum weed. So the trick is to match the hatch, which means fish with small baits such as small lures and feathers in the 2 to 4 inch range, and troll under and around those birds at 5 to 7 knots. Now, there's no size limit on blackfins, so if they're on the small side, or obviously on the small side, let's let them go so we can catch them when they're 30 pounds, hopefully. And I got a photo here, and this is basically the size of the tunas that we've been finding under those birds. That was about an 8 or 9 pounder there. He tasted very good, actually. Now, moving inshore, the flats at the south end of the region, been seeing some great permit fishing. Our good buddy, Captain Joe Gonzalez, he's been fishing both the inside and outside flats from Soldier's Key south to Angelfish Creek, and he's been finding both cruising and tailing permits. Look for hard bottom flats with good moving water on both the incoming and outgoing tide. A small live crab placed in their path will usually get a bite, or you can try placing a crab pattern fly in front of them. And you want to wait for the sun to come up to get some good visibility, or if it's an overcast day, try working over light-colored bottom. And these permit have been averaging 10 to 25 pounds, so there's some nice fish out there. And then staying inshore, the tarpon action has been really good throughout the region. All of the inlets and their adjacent beaches have been alive with tarpon lately. In the north end of the region, a live mullet is the preferred bait, and then in the south end, crabs are the top bait. Tide isn't really much of a factor when you fish those inlets, just as long as the water is moving. And then all of the bridges of the Intercoastal Waterway, they've also been holding tarpon, and they've been feeding on both live crabs and live bait. Now, the bridges, they're best if you fish them at night. You want to work those shadow lines on the outgoing tide. Then there's been a lot of tarpon migrating to the north, and they've been on the oceanside flats, anywhere from Angelfish Creek on north all the way up to Palm Beach. And these fish, those are prime candidates to be targeted on fly, or you can cast artificials such as DOA or Savage Shrimp and plastic swim baits. And with those artificial baits, you want to cast up in front of the tarpon and try and drag your bait right across his nose. And a lot of these tarpon, they've been up to 100 pounds or better.
All right, thank you so much, Jimbo. We're going to take a look at the Center State Bank hot spots inshore. Drift live crabs in and around the inlets for evening tarpon. And then offshore, troll small feathers and lures under the bird activity for football-sized blackfin tunas.
All right, now let's chat with the one and only Jeff Page from the StarTron Central West region, who, by the way, did an amazing job on the kids show last week.
Absolutely.
Hey, Paige.
Oh, thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
You know, Rick, Bree, one of our mainstay offshore species in the StarTron Central West region has got to be the grouper. You know, what's so cool about our grouper fishery here is it's a year-round thing and it can be fished in a variety of ways. First, and certainly the most productive, is your standard bottom rig. You can anchor up over your hard bottom or your structure and drop down a variety of live or cut baits ranging from pinfish, grunts, blue runners, thread fins, pilchards, or cigar minnows. Or in your dead baits, you can use squid, frozen sardines, etc. And it's going to produce red and gag groupers. Another great tactic while bottom fishing over areas of hard bottom or large reefs or wrecks is to deploy your Minn Kota iPilot or Ulterra and utilize the spot lock feature, and it'll keep you within 20 feet of your pinpoint, and it sure beats pulling up the anchor 10 times to get that spot just right. And another popular method is to throw lift plugs. I heard Jimbo talking about it, like the X-Wrap 20 or 30 over your structure, over your area of hard bottom, and you're going to catch really nice gags. One other note, we also have a pretty good scamp grouper fishery as well, and they like the cleaner, deeper ledges in that 105 feet of water on out. I've got a really good grouper photo tonight of a happy client of Captain Larry McGuire of Show Me the Fish Charters out of Cortez with a big red grouper he got with him.
All right, Paige, what else you got for me offshore?
Permit bite remains strong, Rick. We had a slight front this week, kept that water temperature down in the lower 80s, and the wind's back out of the east, so it's flattened out there, and the guys getting out there in that 65 to 85 foot range are having really good success with live small pass crabs. You can free line them, or little trick Stacy Capps taught me, you can put them on a jig head and put them down and just put them in the rod holders, and you can snapper fish while they're out, and they're catching 12 to 25 pound permits. The key's been the weather, and this second half this week is going to be really nice. Moving inshore.
Wait, Paige, before we go inshore, I want to take a look at a hummingbird shot that we've got from your region. Now, the one thing I wanted to explain to you guys tonight is using the side imaging as well as the down imaging. Sometimes your traditional sonar will actually make it look like it's bottom. But what I do is I use the actual side imaging and down imaging to actually see that it is marking it as bait. Remember, the white bottom, the whiter it is, the more dense the bottom. And in this particular case, because of the color graph, you might think that this is the actual bottom, but I am actually able to tell that this is bait. So keep that in mind whenever you're using the hummingbird side imaging and down imaging. All right, Paige, what do you got for us inshore?
Inshore, speckled trout, one of my favorite species, with the big push of small fry bait into the bays. And the trout bite is off the chain with lots of nice 18 to 22-inch specks coming off the grass flats of Lemon Bay, especially north of Stump Pass, as well as the flats in the Dick Meisner Bridge area, and of course the Long Bar Flat in Sarasota Bay. The floating grass isn't too bad. Try throwing topwater plugs like Rapala skitter walks, or the Chrome Zara Spooks, or the new Live Target bait ball surface walker. If the grass is pretty bad, then you're going to want to switch up to a 4-inch saltwater assassin sea shad in the Houdini pattern rigged on a 1/4 ounce silver assassin jig head. And I've got a trout photo tonight of Megan Thomas with a 25-inch gator trout she caught with Tuna Breath Charters Captain Gary Huffman.
Hurry on the tarpon, bub.
Hurry up on the tarpon. Tarpon bite has changed gears. There's still plenty of fish around, but they've broken up. What you got to be is a little patient. Look for singles and small groups. Throw cork pinfish or thread fins, and you can anchor up or you can just drift. And you can fish the afternoon outgoing tides at Egmont Pass with a live free line pass crab. I've got a photo tonight of 13-year-old Michael Russo with a nice tarpon he got with Captain Mike Manning out of Boca Grande.
All right, here are the Central West hotspots from Captain Page's region. Captain Page says that this weekend we're going to go offshore. Amberjacks, lots of AJs holding on the wrecks and reefs in 85 to 105 foot range. Once you get them chummed up, try throwing heavy-duty surface plugs for great action. And then inshore, redfish. More reds have moved into the South Tampa Bay region on the recent full moon. Throw topwater skitter walks early and around the big schools of fry baits.
Coming right up for our next course is a Coastal Conservation Minute tip, and last but certainly not least, our captain from the Central East region. So don't jump ship just yet. We'll see you guys in just a sec.
The Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevrolet, find new roads. Yamaha, reliability starts here. Suffix, the world's most hardcore fishing line. The IGFA, conservation through education. Get your hands wet. Florida Outdoor Experience. Best parts, best prices, Bennett Auto Supply. And there's no stopping Okuma.
Introducing Helmmaster, Yamaha's first fully integrated digital boat control system. With Helmmaster, you can start your outboards with a swipe of a paw and control them with a single lever. Outboard trim and steering friction adjust automatically as you accelerate and decelerate. Adjust engine speed with the touch of a button. The Helmmaster joystick provides the means to navigate and dock precisely with confidence and ease. Take control of your next vessel with Helmmaster at your command.
My name is Colby Coombs, Denali Search and Rescue. The only thing that's warm within 100 miles is your body. People get in over their heads pretty easily. You gotta risk your life to go help them. You just can't rely on hope. You have to buckle down and do it.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
All right, guys, we brought you to this construction trailer to talk about trucks today. Which truck brand offers engines with best-in-class V8 towing or fuel economy?
We moving? We're going. It's the answer to the question, baby. Silverado.
Ooh, that's cool. It's Truck Month. Qualified buyers get 0% financing for 60 months. Plus, find your tank and get $8,250 total value on this Silverado All-Star. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
Today's Costa Conservation Minute is about using a net whenever you're landing your fish. Now, any fish that has a size limit and potentially might have to be put back because he's too small, we want to make sure that we use a net. Now, whether you're offshore or inshore, this is a great practice. Cobias and dolphin are very subdued whenever they're left in the water and they're still in the net. You can easily remove the hook. Now, trout, snook, and redfish are also another fish that we have a limit on, so we want to make sure that we use a net that doesn't knock the slime off of these fish. Now, this particular net works very well because all of the knots and all the seams are built onto the outside, so it's not going to have a tendency to knock the scales or the slime off of the fish. So, take care of the fish now if they're too small, and they'll grow up to be bigger, and that's today's Costa Conservation Minute. Guys don't use nets generally offshore. I think it's a great practice.
I think so too. All right, when it comes to the hookup in the Bell's Real Legends Central East region, Captain Jim Ross has got your back, so let's see what's heating up this weekend.
Well, Bree, we've got gag, scamp, and reds. Those are the three major species of grouper that anglers can expect to find on most of the reefs and wrecks out here in my Central East region. Now, the best bottom structure right now seems to be out deep. Then the 21 to 27 fathom ridges are really good right now, and then also the Okalina bank that starts right around Vero and goes to about to Canaveral and is known as the cones in that section. And then when you get up around the New Smyrna, Daytona area, they call it the steeples, but it's the same bank in about 240 to 250 feet of water. There's also some gags and stuff on the 120 to 240 foot wrecks. But if you're targeting grouper in particular, you need to use large baits. Live pinfish, sardines, pogies, grunts, they all work, but a lot of times they get intercepted by the red snapper. So because grouper have such big mouths, you can use big blue runners or bluefish or large chunks of bait like bonito or barracuda, and you can kind of keep a lot of those red snapper that are under the 20-pound size range or so from eating your baits and be more effective in targeting the grouper. Now, a lot of guys like to use vertical jigs. Once again, snapper will get them, but the guys that prefer the big jigs, the big nylon jigs, 10 to 24 ounces in the glow or glow skirts,
seem to be doing best on the bigger grouper. And our grouper right now average about 10 to 18 pounds, but you can get them into the lower 40-pound range. Now, offshore also, we have king mackerel this week, and the king mackerel are pretty reliable most of the time here in the Bells, Real Ledge, and Central East region, but we've had this big blow, and the water's gotten kind of dirty. And we've also got this moon that we just went past, this full moon. So the nearshore waters are a little dirty right now, but there are still some fish on the 70 to 90-foot reefs. You just need to look around and find where there's some bait and where there's some cleaner water. Most of that is to the south of Canaveral right now. When the water cleans back up, these fish are going to move back to the beach, which is where they were just before the wind blew, and you're going to get fish in that 15 to 25-pound depth range, or even out to 40-foot depth range, and most of those fish are going to be running up to about 20 pounds. Now, swinging inshore, we've got snook, and the snook fishing is closed right now, so you have to catch and release them. But the flats in the Indian River between Wabasso and Palm Bay are doing really good, and anglers that are getting out there early are using Rapala skitterwalk plugs in the bone white or the bone chartreuse or chrome chartreuse colors, and they're doing really good on these fish right from about first light till about 8 a.m. And you want to work around mangroves and shorelines that have natural cover and a lot of mullet around them. That's where you're going to find these fish. Now, if you miss the morning bite, switch over to some finger mullet, or most of our finger mullet are about 7 to 8 inches right now, actually, or live croakers, and you can fish them around a lot of those same areas and still get those snook. And then also at the jetties at Ponce Inlet, Canaveral, and at Sebastian, you can get the snook there on those live croakers, and most of those fish are running about 26 to 40 inches. Now, I've got a picture here of one that we landed last week, and that's one of those fish I was talking about, 42-incher out there on the flats on a live mullet. So they're there in the middle of the day. You just have to put your time in. We've also got speckled trout, and right now they're most prevalent in the Palm Bay through Suntree area of the Indian River, but actually I fished Rockledge and Cocoa today, and that area of the river is really good as well. So don't forget that section of the river. You want to work around docks, mangrove shorelines, and concentrate on the 3-foot to 4-foot depth. That's where you're going to find them best. Now, first thing in the morning, you can get them on the flats as well in the shallow parts down in the Mosquito Lagoon and in the Sebastian area on those Rapala skitter walks. That same thing that you're throwing at those snook. But switch over in the afternoon because pigfish seem to be working better for the trout if you want to get some of those bigger fish. Right now, most of our trout are running about 1 to 3 pounds, but you can get trout to 9 pounds. And I've got another angler here, Adam Mansfield, that had a nice trout with me out this week on one of those finger mullet that we were talking about in the middle part of the day. So don't overlook that middle part of the day with this moon that we just had go past us.
Jimmy, I got a quick question for you. Has your water cleaned up a little bit? I know we had an algae bloom. What's the situation on that?
Some of it has. The areas around Titusville, the whole area around the Spacer, any piece of water touching the Space Center is still a wreck right now. But the areas to the south of there and up to the north around Ponce are still doing pretty good, and there's a lot of fish that have moved back into them, Rick.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Central East region. Inshore, trout in the Mosquito Lagoon. Use skitter walk plugs near the mullet pods from the first light till about 8 a.m. for those gators up to 9 pounds. And then offshore, gag groupers on the 27-fathom ridge. Use live croakers on a standard bottom rig.
Well, I think we've given you everything you need to go out and catch some grouper for the grill this weekend. And when we come back, we'll be telling you what you can fire up for next week right here on the Chevy Florida Insider
Fishing Report.
That hurt. Bye.
Thanks for testing our new car service today.
Of course.
Our service is a little bit different.
Okay.
We charge by the amount of gas consumed. Since we traveled 5.1 miles and this car offers an EPA estimated 37 miles per gallon highway, your total is 31 cents.
What?
22 cents.
I can pay you cash.
The all-new 2016 Chevy Malibu LT.
Current qualified GM lessees can get this all-new 2016 Chevy Malibu LT for around $199 a month.
When you're moving a big offshore boat, it's all about thrust and trust. For thrust, nothing compares to the Yamaha purpose-built 5.3-liter V8 Power Pioneer. And for trust, Yamaha's new F350C model becomes the only outboard in its horsepower class to feature a 5-year limited warranty. Never settle for less than complete confidence and control in the open water. That's Yamaha V8 Power. Get the best and forget the rest.
like the fishermen who swear by it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter to keep up with our captains, contests, and appearances. You never have to miss a show. You can find full episodes of the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report right on your YouTube channel. And make sure to check out our website for fishing reports in your region. Visit www.ChevyFloridaInsiderFishingReport.com for everything you need to know to stay hooked up. Next week, we are talking Marlin.
I'm
it's
back.
the Marlin. Are you back?
I'm going to make a Marlin show.
You're
Holy
coming back
cow.
next
First time
week?
in 3 years.
Wow. Good to have you. Just before we
Is Guy Harvey going to be here?
No, but we're going to have Jason from Casa Vieja.
Ooh,
Jason.
Jason coming.
Jason Price.
Yes.
Just before we came back, Dave was dancing. You want to show us that little dance for the
Yeah,
Olympics?
come on.
Do it. You have
Come
to.
on, Dave.
You're on TV.
He was talking about the Olympics are coming.
Oh, it's so pretty, Dave.
I love it. It's very nice.
All right,
Keep
we'll
going,
see you
Dave.
next week for Marlin,
Ow, I just hit
guys.
myself in the eyeball.
How about the Running Man Challenge? I had it from last week, baby.